setting today. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. It's the 31st of March. Welcome. Let us know where you're watching from. Hashtag AMT for a chance to win.
I see that hat on Dr. Kiltz's head.
Okay. The exact one.
It's a little sweaty, but.
All right. And put in the chat your questions. We're going to be talking to Chris. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Buress. Okay. Thank you. Where are you today, Chris?
I'm tuning in from Houston, Texas.
Okay. And we're going to be talking to him about longevity in a second and ESS 60. Put the questions in the chat for him. And just a quick reminder, we have a couple of cholesterol code screenings coming up in the month of April, a couple of meetups. You can find that information at kiltzmeetup.com. And if you're not a member of the Kiltz Mighty Tribe, membership is free. So become a member. Do you have any other announcements, Alia?
That's about it. The sale is ending at the end of today. If you want to become a Kiltz Health Coach, our spring sale is ending. You go into the Kiltz Mighty Tribe and sign up for the Kiltz Health Coaching course, and the discount code is 25 off. There you go. So spring sale ending today.
All right, Dr. Kiltz.
I noticed another beautiful day in paradise. Welcome, Chris. How you doing?
Wonderful, Dr. Kiltz. I'm excited. I got to be honest. I'm not normally a morning person, but when I knew I was going to connect with you, and I remember when I met you, I'm trying to remember the event. It was in Hack Your Health. Your just energy is infectious. I'm sure everybody already knows that. So I was excited to hop on this morning.
Well, we appreciate you. And again, we're all working here to sort of help inspire people with ideas that we're not hearing out there in standard science and medicine, are we?
No, I agree. And the reason, right? You invited me, we connected, is because your episode on my podcast is coming out today. So
it came out already a few hours ago.
Okay, good.
All right.
Yes.
Already out. So that was an amazing conversation about exactly what you're talking about, the things that people aren't hearing out in mainstream that you share on a regular basis.
So go to his channel and check it out. It's My Battle C in YouTube. This is the episode I came across when I was checking out today's guest. All right, go ahead, Dr. Kiltz.
I don't know. My system is really crazy today. I've got to press all these buttons. They just show up as an arrow. So, no, I want to hear Chris share his story with our community around the globe and how, again, we're in the keto carnivore space, faith and fasting, inspiring each other, but listening and learning from everyone on these ideas that, we're open to. Chris, why don't you tell a little bit about your story and why you're out there podcasting and sharing your message?
Yeah, that's a great question. The kind of perfect question. If you had asked me, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, or told me I was going to be in the longevity space, I was going to have a podcast called Live Beyond the Norms, I was going to get to hang out with super cool people like you guys, I probably just would have said, I don't see how that's going to happen. At the time, I was a happy-go-lucky carbon nanomaterial scientist. And I know that sounds a little crazy. That's because sometimes I am. I've been manufacturing a molecule, and I started manufacturing it in 1991. And the molecule was discovered in 1985 at Rice University. That's here in Houston, where we're based. And the 3 scientists who discovered the molecule went on to win the Nobel Prize for that discovery in 1996. So kind of a short 11 years from discovery to being awarded the Nobel Prize. The molecule's amazing. It performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. So it makes better inks, better batteries, better tires, better photocells. And this is where your audience might be going, hey, this is a health-related podcast. Chris just said inks, batteries, tires, and photocells. Nobody woke up this morning, looked at their car battery and thought, I wonder what part of my car battery I should be taking on a daily basis for my health. The story actually gets a little bit worse. So the shape of this ESS60 molecule is very unique. It looks like a soccer ball. So if you imagine a soccer ball where the lines of a ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms, you have this spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. Because of one of the shapes on the exterior of that, the soccer ball shaped molecule, that ESS60 molecule, is resistant to benzene, they thought, I have a little over here. Put that in a different direction. Disco, early morning disco. So one of those shapes is the same shape as benzene. They thought the molecule would be toxic. They put it in a toxicity study. Instead of being toxic, the test subjects that they gave it to, in this case, it was Wistar rats, lived 90% longer than the control group. So that's the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, peer-reviewed, published research. And that's the study that really changed me from being a happy-go-lucky carbon nanomaterial scientist, which again, I've mentioned already, to getting into the health space. And so now I'm on this journey. I've got a lot more to share, kind of my journey of what is the mechanism of action, what is my new role as a health and wellness supplement chief scientist versus just a carbon nanomaterial chief scientist. So yeah, that's the kind of background of what brought me here.
Did you suffer in some way? Kind of what evolved you as a kid to get to where you're like, oh, this is kind of interesting stuff. What was the inspiration that even got you into the science of any of this stuff, right? You weren't like, oh, I want to help people live longer from day one. Something happened.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I appreciate that you suppose that it's deeper than it actually is. So I did write a book. It's right here, Live Longer and Better. Your journey to living longer and better has never been more achievable than today. And this story is in there, and I share kind of all sorts of personal stuff, my journey into this space, and what you can find in that book is that this is all starts the foundation. Is a 14-year-old boy who has a picture of a Lamborghini Countach on his wall. So I'm 14. My dad was in the Air Force, so we moved every 2 years. In the house that we were in when I was 14, I have this candy apple red Lamborghini Countach on the wall. The doors are open. I can smell the leather. I'm gonna have one of these cars. And I found an article, and clearly the article is like, Motor Trend magazine or something like that said, if you want one supercar, you become a neurosurgeon. If you want more than one supercar, you become an entrepreneur. And I'm a 14-year-old kid. Does he want one or does he want more than one? So he wants more than one. So I knew at 14 I was going to be an entrepreneur. I had no idea exactly what I was going to study or how I was going to make this happen. But my logic going to college was, and when I was researching for the book, it turns out in the country, there was only one class on entrepreneurship in the whole country, not even a whole course of study, just a class. And now there's, entrepreneurship programs all across the country. But I don't even know today if I would go down that path, because my thought was, I'm good in math, I'm good in science. What's the fastest way to the highest salary? where I could make money to invest in a business. And a couple of things went wrong with that. First, it took me longer than 4 years to graduate from college. Engineering is a tough course of study. I did get a minor in computer science, a minor in math. And the other thing that went wrong is I actually started the company before I got out of college, right? So it wasn't about making some salary and then having money to invest. It was starting the company. And the way we started the company, my business partner was working at the Texas Center for Superconductivity. That's an organization housed on the University of Houston campus. And he and I met on the University of Houston campus. And he was separating this newly discovered molecule, right? So discovered across town at Rice University. And one day his professor, Dr. Paul Chu, who's actually really famous in the superconductivity world, he came in and said, hey, you're a bunch of young guys. This molecule is selling for $6,000 a gram. You should go start a business and sell this molecule. And my business partner, Robert, is from an entrepreneurial background. And I kind of joke he did, the back of the napkin calculation, but it only had one line on it, and it was $6,000 a gram. And off and running, he's starting a business. To manufacture this molecule, you actually have to vaporize graphite rods at the temperature of the sun. So this is a challenging engineering. It's an engineering challenge. They brought me in to help with the design of the equipment, the drawings of the equipment. And so we started manufacturing this in 1991. We were, like I mentioned, they actually thought the molecule would be toxic. So to think about being in the health and wellness space is a challenge. As I was writing the book, I think where this question was going, I think like you, where I believe that people end up in a place for a reason. And why did I end up in a place? Because, I have so much fun every single day. I get to be super geeky, which I certainly am. I get to share geeky information about this ESS60 molecule, and I get to reap kind of the ultimate benefits, which are all these amazing testimonials coming in about people using our products. And I look back as I was growing up, and I was always the resource to my friends, to acquaintances. They could come to me. And I was really good, I will humbly say, at giving great advice. Most important in that process is listening. And I know that you do a great deal of that. So to listen real well and then to be able to deliver value is just something that I've done, since I was a teenager. I think you're muted, or you're at least you're muted. There we go.
Longevity. You're 30 something.
I'm 56.
All right. And I just turned a mere 70 freaking years young. Right?
Amazing.
It is freaking amazing. And is our search for the fountain of youth just kind of part of built-in human nature? And we're looking for something that's going to help us live longer, but isn't part of our problem? We don't need to live longer. We need to find the living more vibrantly, because you as a scientist and entrepreneur, and all of us are that, is part of the joy of the journey, whether we live a long time or not.
Yeah, your question triggers this in me, right? So I share the story that these rats lived 90% longer than the control group. And I share it with as many people as possible, frankly. And I often get this response of, why would I want to live longer? And it was confusing to me at first, because I just like, kind of my backstory, at some point I decided I was going to live to 125. Now, I don't know where the number came from. I don't know when I decided this. And frankly, if I'm honest, thinking about 125, it wasn't going to be that pretty, right? It was going to be like the military crawl across this line and one little last roll. Right. And my mindset even about that has changed, but still it was 125. And so when people were saying, why would I want to live longer? I was thinking, this makes no sense. And then I realized, and this is what you're touching on, people have a hard time separating living longer from living in some state of infirmment, right? And when you change the question, you're like, hey, Dr. Kiltz, if you could have the same mental capacity that you have today and the same physical capacity that you have today, would you then be interested in living longer? And the reality, not everyone says yes, right? And that's kind of a shame, because I think there's a lot of value that people could deliver in this world. And that's where a lot of joy comes from. But it does change almost everyone's mind. So yeah, how do we live longer? And I think the answer to your question is probably more complicated today than it's ever been, right? We've seen a kind of a doubling of human lifespan over, I don't know, the last 100 years. A lot of that is just hygiene and frankly antibiotics for kind of specific bacteria that are deadly, right? But now we're at this cutting edge point where medical information is doubling every 3 months. I think it's even faster, maybe even 73 days. And if you just say 3 months, at the end of 2026, we're going to have more than 16 times as much information, medical information, as we did at the beginning. So all of these things, if things can happen, anything that's going to be able to happen, we're going to know how to do it so much faster now. And in my podcast, you're a guest. Your episode is live now. They can go there and check out the answers to 2 questions, which are, how long can humans live and how long do you intend to live? And those answers aren't always the same. A lot of these experts that I interview don't give the same answer, which I think is interesting and telling. But I think I would give the answer 2 ways. How long can humans live? First, today, like with what we have today, I think it's probably around 120. With what we're going to have in the next 5 years, I really hope that we can exceed what's called the longevity escape velocity, that point at which the medical community is extending life by a year and a day every year, which is the point where somebody may be the last person to die of natural causes. And I think that's really exciting. And, I know that might be a little out there, but that's where I land.
Well, in some way, it's sort of like, okay, we're creating something in order to live longer, but we have no idea when we're going to die or how we're going to die anyway, right? Yep. But ultimately, the best way for infinite life journey, living like infinitely, is through the stories we create.
Yeah.
I mean, really think about Jesus Christ. I mean, the dude is like over 2,000 years old, right? He's still going strong, right? Pick any human being, Marcus Aurelius or Socrates or Aristotle, or like all of us, right? Through the podcasting and the publications and the stories and the science, we don't know how what we're doing is going to affect the world tomorrow. It could be good or bad, right? How many scientific studies have been run on human beings of this particular molecule that you're studying? And I always, one of the challenges with science, it's called petri dish science. Meaning we're looking at a petri dish and we're claiming one thing about something and then we're not rats, right? We're not rats or mice. So how do we extrapolate all this stuff to human evolution and future and the future of humans?
Yeah. So we're a very weird supplement company. And what I mean by that, in the best possible way, most supplement companies don't continue to do research, and even fewer publish that research. So we published in 2024, published in 2025. We will be publishing this year. We're actually going to be starting 4 clinical trials this year. One of them is on sleep. We already did an ad hoc study on sleep. It's a small cohort, but 100% of the participants reported improvements in sleep while they were taking the product. And our most consistent testimonials, people take the product in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. And so we weren't surprised when we got this result. We'll be doing a clinical trial on sleep. We're going to be doing a clinical trial on HSCRP, right? So HSCRP is stands for high sensitivity C-reactive protein. It's an inflammatory marker, typically associated with cardiovascular disease and cancers. There's some good results actually in beagles, and we can talk about kind of how do you get from a rat to a human. But there's good results in reducing HSCRP in beagles. I mentioned sleep. The next one is a migraine study. We actually have to change the terminology. We have to call it a frequent headache study because of my own personal testimonial, my wife's, a number of people that I've interacted with. We're starting that study. And then finally, we actually do have some cosmetics. So we're starting an wrinkle and age spot study. So we're the very weird company. It's kind of amazing that the original study where the rats lived 90% longer came out in mid 2012, and that study hasn't been replicated. So our goal originally was, okay, well, we should get into the right spot, get some base studies done, and then actually start doing that study. But we decided to skip to human trials. It's significantly more expensive, but it's just ultimately more valuable, right? Like how you Petri dish study, and I use some examples of some Petri dish studies, but I point out every time I talk about them is they're the lowest level of study. Like you should take an anecdote, like to kind of talk about the scientific process. You should take an anecdote, like somebody's individual testimony over a Petri dish, because at least by giving the anecdote, they're still alive. To take something from a Petri dish into an animal model, there's no guarantee they're going to live, right? Like it's just a really dramatically different system. So it's, so those are the studies that we're currently working on. And just to talk a little bit about why this is a broad breadth, like I just listed headaches and HSCRP, an inflammatory marker. I mentioned sleep. I mentioned a wrinkle and age spot. Those are very different things in the system, right, in your physiological system. And the reason that the theory behind why we're able to have an impact on such a broad base of systems is called the BOSS theory. So buffering oxidative stress system. So there's peer-reviewed published research that shows that ESS60 soccer ball shaped molecule in the mitochondria. And also from way back in the 90s, we know that soccer ball shaped molecule can hold up to 6 negatively charged particles on the exterior of the cage. And what that looks like, so quick refresher, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of every cell. There's between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria in every cell in your body, except for your blood cells, right? So they have 0. And your brain and neurons, which have 2 million. It is amazing how much energy our nervous system uses relative to our other systems. Like any power source, right? The mitochondria, like any power source, there is a negative byproduct. You think about your car going down the road, it's got exhaust. You think about a power plant, it's got a smokestack. In the case of mitochondria, it's reactive oxygen species. I like to picture these like little bumper cars. If they're left to their device, everything they run around and smack into in your body, they cause oxidative stress, oxidative damage. Which sounds bad, but like so many biological systems in our body, there is a mechanism to manage those. And that mechanism is the antioxidants, glutathione and melatonin. And so that's in a healthy mitochondria that's producing the right amount of energy. It's got the glutathione and melatonin to manage those reactive oxygen species. But what happens when you stress a mitochondria? And that kind of begs the question, how do you stress a mitochondria? I point out, if you're alive in modern society, you have stressed mitochondria, right? Smoking, drinking, exposure to EMF radiation off of your cell phone, stress, like just stress in general. You have stressed mitochondria. And at that point, they start producing more reactive oxygen species than can be managed by the internal glutathione and melatonin. And that's if they're left to their own devices, these reactive oxygen species run around and do that oxidative damage. And that's where the ESS60 molecule comes in. It's in the mitochondria from peer-reviewed published research. And we believe it holds up to 6 of these negatively charged particles so that they can't run around and do damage. And then when that mitochondria replenishes the glutathione, replenishes the melatonin, then it can manage those reactive oxygen species. And that's why we say that ESS60 molecule is the BOSS, a buffering oxidative stress system. And the summary is that we believe we're reducing the negative impact of stressed mitochondria and if you reduce the negative impact of stress mitochondria, you should have these kind of systemic benefits that would run the gamut of like headaches, HSCRP, wrinkle, and sleep.
Are there any other habits, supplements that compare even a placebo? How do we sort of look at any molecule or supplement or practice to give it a fair chance or understanding of what it is?
You mentioned placebo, and anytime you're frankly hearing about anything new or just thinking about what already works, placebo is a part of it, right? Whether it's a medication, whether it's an exercise, frankly, whether it's a diet, right? Like if you believe that the diet's going to work for you, it is in fact going to work for you better because the placebo effect has an impact. And what I lean on here is, so I'll share one of my favorite testimonials. So Gwen is our largest distributor here in Houston, and she originally bought the product for her dog. She had no intention of taking the product. She buys the product for her dog, and she noticed such a profound difference in her dog that she decided to take the product. Now, I like to point out, there is no placebo effect with pets, right? Like, ironically, they're not smart enough to know that they got a dropper of food and they should have more energy today. She went on, it's kind of funny. I'm going to share the worst testimonial you've probably ever heard about a supplement. So Gwen, I recorded a video with her, and she shared in that video at the 3-month mark, if you had asked her if she had noticed anything about taking the product, her initial response would have been no. And then she slowed down and took a little stock of her life. She's like, wait a minute, I'm working later. I'm waking up earlier. I was never a morning person. And arguably the worst testimonial about a supplement you'll ever hear, I cleaned my garage. Now, we don't use that in any of our marketing literature, but it also means something, right? Cleaning out the garage is a big, arduous task for most people. Maybe there's emotional baggage in there. It's hotter than your house, right? Or it's colder than your house. So I think it really, at the end of the day, is valuable. And that's where I think we have so many pet testimonials. We've got pet products that are on the market. We have so many pet testimonials that is the thing that I lean on, saying, hey, I'll be honest. In 2018, when we started bringing this product to market, we're getting these amazing testimonials from people. And as a scientist, I don't know what to do with them, right? So let's say, Dr. Kiltz, you're sharing with me something, and I'm going like, Dr. Kiltz, I believe you, but I don't know what to do with this, right? Because as scientists in kind of general population, we're taught anecdotes, they don't really matter. Like, you should just ignore them. Which is actually not true. They are the foundation of the scientific principle, right? You put together your theory that you go and test with science based on anecdotes. But finally, like they just keep coming in, and we're starting to get the right theories and put the right research in place to really explain what's going on.
Do these supplements for the animal world have to have the same disclaimer as in the human world, which I want to say the FAA.
It's the FDA. Yep.
The FDA, ultimately, it's a hard one for any of us. I mean, we all take supplements, don't we? And ultimately, it's almost like we want to hedge our bets in a sense, right? I think that's the term, right? Just in case. Have you done toxic studies, levels of toxicity on this particular substance?
Yeah, well, I mean, remember, if you go back to the original study, it was a toxicity study. They actually thought the molecule would be toxic. And there's something that I kind of learned getting into this space and, really addressing this particular research is when you do a toxicity study on rats, when you do the first one, you're just trying to figure out if it's toxic, right? So you don't give a little bit to the rats and notice if their tummy hurts. You give them a lot to see if it's actually toxic. And I love to give credit to the researchers, right? So they're out of the University of Paris. If there's anything that was ever true about a toxicity study, When all of the control group, so that group of rats, there's 3 groups of rats in this study. One group given water, a control group, one given olive oil, a semi-control group, and then one given the ESS60 molecule with olive oil, and that was the test group. When all of the control group, all of the water rats are dead, and all of the ESS60 rats are alive, that is a non-toxic material. So that happened at about 32 months. And they continued to do the animal husbandry with these rats out to 62 months, like 2.5 years, in order to get this ultimate result. So I love to give them credit for, continuing to do that animal husbandry and getting that study out to the 62 months. And I'm going to share something. My director of research came to me at one point and said, this particular study could have been 5 separate studies because of how much depth and how many different aspects to the study there were. One of them was a typical Wistar rat lives out 32 months and has a known amount of tumor mass in its body. The longer it lives, the more tumor mass it has in its body. Even though the MyVital C rats lived out to 62 months, none of them had any tumors, right? Now, this is a pretty profound result. I've told that story to people and they've said, oh, cure for cancer. And I've said, no. And then I follow that with another no, right? FDA might be listening and this is the right answer. Yes, you were going to say something.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So no, like this may be what this piece of the study, what it points to is that it may be a cancer preventative. We know things as simple as good exercise, good nutrition, good sleep are cancer preventatives. It throws it into that arena.
My grandmother lived 104. Wow. She smoked Pall Malls and drank Manhattans. And she's an Italian, short, beautiful woman. And it's kind of a hard one to make claims in this world. And just curious about our mission for something more and creative. What have you found are other things that help you be healthy and the people around you? And even that, is it just this one little supplement and we could just kind of do whatever we want like my grandmother? Or are there some other things along with these products that we're all touting as making our lives better?
Well, if you're, now that I've spent time in this longevity space, I did a longevity summit called Uncovering the Secrets of Longevity. Got to interview some amazing people like Ben Greenfield, Dr. Stephen Gundry, Dave Asprey, many others in the longevity space. And I went into this longevity summit kind of looking for what I describe as 2 silver bullets, right? One of them was a silver bullet that you take and you live forever, right? That doesn't exist. Like that's not there. Maybe it'll be here someday. That would be amazing. And the other one was, what is a silver bullet that could take you out? And the reality is that there are a couple of things that I think we are high on the list of things that need to be solved in order to really live forever. Now that I've spent this time, done this summit, had the podcast for almost 2 years now, interviewed 130 people for that podcast. I would say if you come to me and you're like, what is the right strategy for longevity? It is definitely not just take my product. Like that is not even where to begin, right? You need to take care of your nutrition. You need to take care of your sleep. You need to take care of your exercise. You need to take care of your purpose and connection with people.
Purpose.
I did a longevity fast track. So coming out of that longevity summit, and I broke it down into weeks. Like week 1 was mindset, week 2 nutrition, week 3 exercise, week 4 sleep. I think I had sleep was week 2. Mindset, I think, is the most important thing, because if you need to make changes and you don't have the mindset to do it, you just won't make the changes, right? Like, so to wake up and say, I'm going to go change my nutrition and eat better. If you don't have the right mindset, it's not going to happen. So you really do need to work on mindset. I
So-
do think there is a little place for our product where some people, I mean, you think about addressing the mitochondria, and there are 2 million mitochondria in every brain cell, right? And if you're helping to reduce the negative impact of stressed mitochondria, it can actually help with mindset. It can help with sleep, which can also help with mindset. So I do think there can be a role to jumpstart things.
So purpose, maybe that's part of this whole process more than anything, because when you go to a longevity summit, you're meeting people with purpose. Whether they're right or wrong almost doesn't matter. It's getting together in the purpose of giving ideas and sharing ideas, and everyone's going to find the thing that resonates with them and gives, again, it's our purpose of seeking something, but in fact, we may already have more than we know, but your purpose is sharing ideas. And don't you think in some way that's sort of like the spark that gets us up every day and goes to work?
Well, absolutely. I think we are the only species on the planet that preferentially dies on Monday. I don't know if you knew that. So we make it through the weekend because there's stuff to do, maybe families visiting or whatever, but preferentially we die on a Monday. And I think that goes to evidence of the value of purpose. When you look at kind of all the blue zone research, right? So there's the areas around the world where people tend to live longer, tend to get to centenarians on a more regular basis. Purpose is a big part of it. Family, like multi-generational families in the same household, that causes purpose, and those people tend to live longer. And I think they tend to live happier, right? If I mentioned when I share the rat study, that some people were like, why would I want to live longer? And then if you kind of say, well, the same mental capacity and the same physical capacity, even then some people still don't want to live longer. It's because there's a lack of purpose. So figuring out purpose, and that was one of the weeks of my longevity fast track, figuring out what your purpose is and how to be purposeful, I think is just paramount.
I always go back 50,000 years ago and wonder, like, what was your purpose? Is to get up and go out and hunt.
Yes.
And reproduce and build. But maybe we make too much of your purpose in this world. And the purpose is just to be a human being, whether you want to be in a cave or on the top of a mountain or hanging out at a longevity conference.
Yeah, well, I think it's really interesting, and I do talk about being a caveman at one point and how we're kind of wired negatively. Why mindset is something that you probably have to be proactive about, and the point is, no caveman kind of rolled the giant rock out of his cave entrance, walked onto whatever the land, and said, "Wow, what a beautiful sunset!" Right? Like he stuck his head out, like peeked out, and goes, "What's trying to kill me? What's trying to eat me? What's trying to steal my food? How am I going to get through the day?" So we do have this, we're looking for the negative. And that's why mindset and being proactive about what your mindset is so very important. But what I think the expansion of your point is, okay, yes, you've got to work on survival and procreation. Those are the things that allows us to, as a species, to exist. But then what happens after that, right? So we don't have a hard time going to the grocery store and getting food, right? Like we have all of these major things ticked off on our requirements box. Now is where purpose starts to come in, right? Because we're talking about a better life, not just a life making sure we have food and water and shelter and a mate, but a life where we're actually feeling purposeful. And so I do think that matters, right? You got to take care of the basics, and then you get to the opportunity to focus on a purpose.
And purpose is whatever you choose it to be.
Yeah.
Right. And the infinite purpose of all of us. But ultimately, there's only one purpose. Just be, right? There's nothing we have to be. And, small minds, big minds, stories, easy, hard. This is the beauty of this is entertainment, by the way. That's the beauty. We're not your doctors. This is a discussion for all those big minds, small minds, whatever you want it to be. And that's the beauty of it. I just like our good friend Anidra brought up her grandma lived to 97 and dad and siblings, it's here we are every day, right?
Yeah. One of my joys, and I share this with a lot of parents. Actually, somebody in our office, somebody who used to work with our office, came by for an event, and he's about to have a child, and it was just great, kind of sharing some advice. And yeah, family is a great joy, right?
And ultimately, this is our family. I mean, we have some comments that are like, "What are you doing here? Get out of here!" But you know what? All family, and the good, the bad, the easy, the hard, the right, the wrong, all part of the journey, and ultimately, community is critical, and I think we're finding community in our longevity space, or keto carnivore space, or going to a Tony Robbins event, and, feeling inspired, or simply kind of hanging out, and that's what these communities are all about. Talking about ideas that it's like, you may not want this or need that. I don't care. We're just love. Chris is out there sharing his ideas and energy. I have no idea whether he's right or wrong.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately up to each and every one of us to and the beauty of isn't it true? The beauty of social media and the internet and AI is that we can do our own work and search it out and experiment ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to have, I think it's valuable to have an inquisitive mind and to be open to ideas. And I think, you look at how divided we are. The example that I like to give as a country, right, as a nation, like go to the grocery store. You're interacting with people that are on the other side that maybe you think you hate, and everything's fine. Like people just want to go to the grocery. They want to get groceries. They want to live their life. And I wish more people would spend time in that. And, the current algorithm that is kind of plaguing us. I had a conversation with my mom over the weekend, and she's in one version of the algorithm, I'm in the other, and you've got to spend time figuring out and listening to the other side and being a part of a bigger community in that context.
It's a matrix. It's a story we have in our minds and we put out there. This is the beauty of the universe. My brother Ray and Tom, whenever you go to the market, they know everyone, even though they've never been to that market before. So we got to stop and talk to everyone. And I think that's kind of the beauty of all the events, whether it's longevity or keto, carnivore spaces. I mean, we're all part of the journey, and we're learning from each other. And I'm learning from Chris, and how many of us are we know someone that suffered, right? Cancer, diabetes, depression, suicide, all these things are part of it. And is it a pharmaceutical agent? Oh, by the way, is your supplement require a doctor's prescription?
No. And something to point out, because I did mention in order to manufacture this, you actually do have to vaporize graphite rods at the temperature of the sun. So it's if you were to ever wake up and say, hey, I'm going to start a supplement, you wouldn't start with this one because there are so many challenges in building it. But it is a naturally occurring molecule. So everybody in your audience has already been exposed to it. And the evidence I will offer, if you take the soot of a candle, you'll get parts per million or parts per billion of the ESS60 molecule. So naturally occurring, there's tons of it in space. The KT boundary, which is that layer of Earth associated when the asteroid struck the planet and caused the dinosaurs to go extinct, that has an elevated amount of the ESS60 molecule. So we've all been exposed to it. But yeah, you do not need a prescription. This is a nutritional supplement.
Let's take some questions.
How about this one for Dr. Kiltz? Latins Wella. What should a 12-year-old eat to have a healthy body?
Eat meat. Bacon, eggs. It's the baby's diet, which basically we're all babies at our hearts. Bacon, eggs, butter, beef, Kiltz's ice cream, salt, 1 meal a day, and faith in God. And at 12, you can eat more than that. But fatty, rare to raw is the healthiest thing to eat. We're lions, not sheep.
Next.
There we go. Now we got some questions about the supplement. But before that, Chris, I would love if you would stop your supplement for like a month and then do a carnivore diet for 3 months and do a scientific experiment.
I'll tell you this. So this is interesting. I mentioned that we're doing a headache study, and one of the key reasons is I am really the geeky guy that I sound like. I have a spreadsheet back to 2014 tracking my 5 to 6 migraines per year. I was trying to figure out what caused them and how to get rid of them. In 2018, I started taking this product on a regular basis. I went 18 months without a single migraine. So I should have had, 6 or 7 at this point. The reason when I finally got a migraine, I went off of my product to join our sleep study. So we did a crossover sleep study, and that's when I got my first migraine. And I'll share, I do get about 1 or 2 migraines a year, but if anybody's ever had a migraine, there's kind of an aura. I get this little sliver of my vision that looks like a kaleidoscope. It moves into the center. And then it goes away after about 15, 20 minutes. So they're not the debilitating thing that I'm keeping track of on a spreadsheet. They're something that I can literally work through. I can do a podcast through it. Reading is hard. I don't know if you've ever tried to read through a kaleidoscope, but I could do that if I needed to. So yeah, it would take a lot to convince me to stop, but carnivore is on my radar for sure.
I think your migraines would completely go away on a carnivore diet, never to return. And I'm going to say that I'm not a medical specialist.
Well, I suffered migraines forever. Carnivore cured them.
Wow.
And so remember, so this is the hard part, is that plants and proteins, because proteins basically are sugars, amino acids are sugar-like. They're ketogenic and glucogenic. They are glycating. Glycation is damaging to cellular structures and vascular glycocalyx. And by eating fat, it's anti-inflammation, and it has every molecule that your body requires, which is kind of radical. But again, we're here to share ideas. Because if we don't, we had a raw vegan on recently. We're here to share ideas that we want everyone to be part of this. And, there may be, I take some supplements. I have freaking no idea what they do. But I take some because I do. But carnivore cured my migraines, and literally 15 years, no migraines.
Wow.
On carnivore. And again, the why part of it, because these are medicinal, or they're helpful or harmful, basically, a plant. That's the craziness, right? And our science is kind of holds us back in some way. So, but we're learning together. We don't have these conversations. Some people, I don't want to go vegan. I don't want to go carnivore. Great.
That's right.
What's your product called? What's it called in a shelf in a thing?
Yeah, it's My Vital C, right? So you can find it myvitalc.com. I think they had the website was up a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I put that up. There we go.
Yeah, thank you.
That's myvitalc.com.
I want to share about the book, something I'm really proud of. So you can get the book for $19.99 at Amazon or on the website. For $10 extra, I'll autograph that book. That $10 fee goes to Operation Underground Railroad. You may remember the movie The Sound of Freedom, which was a great movie about a horrible topic, which was child exploitation. So 100% of my signature fee goes to Operation Underground Railroad.
Wow.
We have a great question here, Alia. Go ahead.
Ryan Ari wants to know if your supplement will help with chronic pain.
So we have to be really careful. And Dr. Kiltz mentioned FDA. We probably haven't made a statement. Maybe there is one. The FDA has not evaluated our product. It is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. Chronic pain is a condition that the FDA regulates heavily. So I can't make any claims about that. I would try it, right? Like, just like I would try the ketogenic diet, like to see what impact that would have. I really am a big believer in be the CEO of your own health. And whatever that looks like, your diet, if that looks like a supplement that you want to try, I think there's.
So, disclaimer aside, though, what has been your feedback? Because you must have feedback from people telling you about whether it helped with their pain or discomfort or not.
So the short answer is we absolutely have. And if you think about, again, that boss theory where we're reducing the negative impact of stress mitochondria and your brain and your neurons, right? So that thing that would actually transport the pain signals have 2 million mitochondria in each of those cells. And you're reducing the negative impact of that stress mitochondria. Often we end up in a situation like, well, what did it do here? Well, are there mitochondria there? And the answer is yes. And they're disproportionately there in the brain and your neurons.
And what's your experience? I mean, is a migraine painful?
Oh, so I mean, think about it. Yeah, I am a geeky person, but I'm not so geeky that I'm just tracking stuff like my migraines. So I have a spreadsheet back to 2014 because they're miserable. They're go into a dark, cold, and silent room for hours to sleep off the pain of a migraine. Like they're debilitating, and that's gone. I'll share this one testimonial. So my wife does a pretty good job of convincing me not to work on weekends and to have good time off during the week. But one Sunday I was up at the office and this guy knocks on the door. It felt very clandestine. I was like, "Hey, can I help you?" And he's like, "Do you have ESS 60?" And I was like, "Yes, come in." And we don't have a point of sale system. So I took his credit card and placed the order on the website. So I remember this guy. And about 3 months later, he was in the office. I saw him. Cassandra, who was helping him, tells me that this is his third order, and we were running some sort of 3-bottle special at the time. And so we got 3 bottles. Like, this guy's going to give me an amazing testimonial, right? And so I asked him, "Hey, have you noticed anything?" And you could tell he felt really bad. He was like, "Chris, I haven't really noticed anything." And then he goes, "But, does it help?" And he kind of gestured at his knuckles, right? "Does it help with like this?" And I was like, "Well, we have testimonials that it does." He goes, "Well, that's helped." And then I also used to have this click, click, click in my knee. And at this point, I'm thinking, well, it's a shame you didn't notice anything. And he goes on to say, "I'm going jogging today. This is like the 3rd time I've gone jogging in 4 years, like some extended period of time." And then he said this. He said, "Chris, I have to share with you, I feel less stress at work. And let me be clear, it's the same job, it's the same people, it's the same stress. I just feel less stress at work." So that's kind of an example that fits in there.
Nice. Oh, wow. We got a few minutes left and a ton of questions. So maybe we do a speed round.
Go speed round.
Cindy Demanchi, little late. What's the supplement?
It's called My Vital C. It's the carbon molecule called ESS 60 dissolved in olive oil, and it's responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, a full 90% extension of life. And we believe it has a positive impact in the mitochondria.
Is it possible that it's the olive oil, like Dr. Gundry says? It might be the ketus because fat, even if it's plant, might be anti-inflammatory?
That is a very fair question. In that original study, remember there were 3 groups: water, olive oil as a semi-control group, and then olive oil with ESS 60. The group given olive oil lived 18% longer, right? So there is a benefit to olive oil, whereas the group given olive oil with the ESS 60 molecule lived 90% longer.
Go ahead, Daria.
Oh, yeah. Come on. Speed it up.
Great. Next question. How will the supplement aid someone with an extremely high CAC score and family history of heart disease?
We don't have any research specific to that. I would always lean on, if you're reducing the negative impact of stress mitochondria, you should have notice some systemic benefits. I think high CAC score in heart disease, those are things. Olive oil, if you can, so olive oil is shown to have some benefits, but those are conditions that I would think are probably not addressed by this molecule.
Dr. Kiltz, is it safe to start my 4-year-old and 2-year-old sons on a carnivore diet?
Answer is absolute
Yes.
mundo. Remember, from milk from the breast to meat from the bone. That's our human evolution. I mean, there's nothing toxic in a ribeye steak except you become a lion, not a sheep.
All right, next question. I'm just seeing if there's any other supplement related questions. What about this one? Is the purpose of your product to fix stereolaplasm? It is
Stereolaplasmic.
I will be honest, I don't know what that is. Is it active copper? No.
Okay.
Have you found in the human body any molecule similar to the ESS 60?
Yeah, well, if you think about the role we think it's playing in the mitochondria, right? In the mitochondria, you've got these negative byproducts, these reactive oxygen species, and then you've got the glutathione and the melatonin to manage those as antioxidants. This isn't even acting like those. It's acting very different in that it's a buffer. It's like this bucket where those extra reactive oxygen species are getting stuck in the bucket. And then when that mitochondria replenishes the glutathione, replenishes the melatonin, then they can manage them out of that bucket. So creating that buffer. So very different.
Okay, next. Let's see. Amy says I was a headache person. I had several each month. I haven't had headaches since 2018 when I started carnivore.
Yeah, that goes with Dr. Kiltz's kind of migraines, like carnivore gets rid of migraines. Very cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Susie wants to know if you're doing carnivore, keto, or something else. P.S.
I'm more like a Mediterranean I'm leaning heavy into protein. I love the animal protein because I've actually put on some muscle. I'm 56 years old and really haven't changed my workout routine. And over the last probably 12 months, put on 5 pounds of muscle, which you're not supposed to do at 56. So I'm very excited about that.
Nice. Jennifer Edwards is experimenting with mineral magnesium glycinate in her water throughout the day, 25 magnesium glycinate at night, 600 magnesium. Okay, all these supplements because she has really bad leg cramps. Do you think this is a good start?
I think that may be for Dr. Kiltz more than it is for me.
Oh, I took it down.
Keep going.
All right. Yes. Jennifer, email me. I'm going to tell you something. Okay. Gil, is there anything you can recommend for battling Hashimoto's?
Yeah. That's probably more Dr. Kiltz.
Well, all we can say here is that, listen, I can't make a claim, but like anything else, it's your experimentation. Really, we're individually experimenting in life, and maybe that's our purpose, experimentation. But heroin probably isn't a good experiment, is it?
I did the carnivore diet, and after 6 years of suffering with Hashimoto's and feeling insane and being very, very sick, felt amazing like a normal human being after 3 days on the carnivore diet. Do the carnivore diet if you have Hashimoto's. Oh, I'm making all sorts of claims this morning because I'm not a doctor, so I can say that.
We're making claims or disclaims.
All right, let me quickly go through this here. Yeah. That's your Instagram, My Vital C. I guess if you search for My Vital C, you'll find plenty of your
and my name stuff. Too. If you search for Chris Buress, you'll also find me all over the place.
His YouTube. This is his website.
Yeah, that's the podcast website.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, we got to do the giveaway. And then I got it. Oh, gosh. We're going over today.
Hit the giveaway. Good. We have.
Oh.
We have to go.
All right, Julia. No, come on. All right.
Rice biscuit. Cool.
End stream.